Hi everybody, it's Susan from Meadows Quilt Studio, and today's block is called Mountain Meadows. And this is an 8-inch block, which you can make into a 16-inch block if you want. It really goes together pretty easy. We just have a square and a square unit in the center and flying geese units. So I hope you'll join me and I'll show you how to make the Mountain Meadows block. Here are the fabrics you need to make the Mountain Meadows block. For A, you will need one 4.5-inch square. B is 4 2.5-inch squares. C is 4 2.5-inch squares. D is 8 1.5 by 2.5-inch rectangles. E is 16 1.5-inch squares. And F is 8 1.5 by 2.5-inch rectangles. Now this is going to make an 8-inch block, but you can enlarge these pieces and make a 16-inch block if you want. But we're going to do the 8-inch block today. So I'm going to adjust the camera and we'll get started sewing the Mountain Meadows block. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is to make the square and a square unit. So that's going to take the A square and the C squares, and we're going to sew a C square to each corner, and you can draw a diagonal line on the wrong side. You can follow your seam line, your diagonal seam tape, which I don't have, but I do have glow line tape on my machine, so I'm going to use that. And I'm going to start out by sewing a square to two opposite corners, and if you draw a line, you want your line to go from top center to the right bottom corner of the C square. So we're going to go ahead and sew it directly on the line. Okay, I'm going to turn this to the opposite corner and sew another square on it. Okay, and now I want to trim off the outer corners of both squares. And then I'm going to press those triangles back. Okay, so that's what we have at this point. And now I want to sew a square to the two remaining corners. Okay, now I'm going to trim these corners off and press back, and the square and a square unit will be done. Okay, square and a square unit. So now we need to do flying geese units. So for that, we're going to use F rectangles and E squares. Now we do this just like any flying geese unit. These are just smaller pieces. So I'm going to sew one side first and then sew the other. So this is just like the square and a square unit method of sewing the corner pieces on. We're going to do the same thing. We just have two corners here. And if you've drawn a diagonal line on the wrong side, then just sew right on that diagonal line. Okay, I'm gonna trim and press back. Okay, like that. And sew a square to the opposite corner, opposite side, going from the center to the bottom left-hand corner. Okay. Trim and press this one. Little tiny flying goose units. So I'm going to finish these. We should have 8 of these when we're done. Okay, so I'm going to chain piece all of these together. So I'm going to do all of the right sides and then I'll do all of the left. Okay, now with all these flying geese units, I need to sew a D rectangle to them. And this is going to go along the green. So we're going to match the prints together. So green to green. And, you know, pin these if you want. These are small enough that I don't believe I'm going to pin them. Okay, we have 8 of these, and next thing we need to do is we need to sew them together in pairs. So we're going to just meet them up like this and sew them into pairs. So you've got that one seam to watch, and then you have this diagonal seam here also you can watch. See if you can line those up. Do your best to line them up. So now we have 4 of these, and now we're ready to put the block together. So I'll adjust the camera and we'll lay out the block. Okay, so here we have all the units. Square and a square unit, the flying geese units, and then the B squares, which are the corners of the block. So we're going to go ahead and lay it out row by row, and I'm going to start up here, and the background is going to go to the outside. So we've got one set here. Oops. B square, flying geese, and a B square. Flying geese, square and a square, flying geese, B square, flying geese, and another B square. Now my B squares are directional, so I need to turn these. I'm going to turn them so that they're matching the square in here, the inside the square and a square. So now I just need to sew all the units into rows, sew the rows together, and then the block is done. And I'm going to match this point up to the seam and pin it. Here's the completed Mountain Meadows block. I think it's pretty. Just 2 different prints plus a little bit of background, so it doesn't use much background at all. Of course, you can change your colors however you want. You could leave this as your background. You could use these as your background, however you want to do it. And this will make a nice big 16-inch block if you want to. The reason I didn't is because the square and a square unit, this would have taken an 8.5 inch piece of fabric to do this, and I didn't have enough, so I made this into an 8-inch block. So anyway, you could do it however you want. Anyway, I hope you will give this block a try. Okay, that is it for the Mountain Meadows block. This one was really easy to put together. Just some little flying geese units and a square unit with some squares and rectangles. So 2 different prints and a little bit of background, and I think this makes a pretty block. So I hope you'll give it a try. Now if you like this video, please click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you are all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.